Gentlemen, welcome back to Administrative Results. I have one of the videos of all time for you. I'll be ranking and shooting my Cold War era battle rifles. I have a strange love for battle rifles, especially of those that originated during the Cold War. This is mainly strictly like a quasi-fun, entertaining style video. There may be some knowledge along the way, like we'll go over certain historical details and aspects about the gun, stuff I like, stuff I don't like, but overall it's supposed to be a good time. Whether you're on the toilet drinking your coffee, or if you're truly honoring me, you're probably eating some sort of meal, which is one of the highest honors you can give a YouTuber. Now let me introduce you to the ladies. Swiss PE-57. It's not an OG, but it gets the job done. It's one of my dream guns. German HK91. Ain't no G3, but yet again gets the job done. Springfield M1A. It's supposed to be our M14 stand-in, yet again gets the job done. DSA FAL, made to look like a Rhodesian battle rifle of its era with slight modern flair. Of course, ain't no original FN FAL, but you got the point by now. It gets the job done. This guy is a phony, he's a fraud. Nothing of his is original or true to copy. Nonetheless, it'll still be fun. They're stand-ins. Now, of course, we've got the FAL used around the world and still probably in service in certain countries today. Chaberner 7.62x51, originating in Belgium. It would go on to be one of the top battle rifles in the world. Of course, it's kind of a little ancient now. There are still efforts to modernize it and bring it to the forefront, but pretty much no one is going to take those seriously. Used a lot of times by countries with poor GDPs to get the job done in their military police actions. It's still very much a vibe. This one is in the controversial camo of baby poop, which would have been used by the Rhodesians in the Rhodesian Bush War. Gets you a lot of flack on the interwebs. Reddit gets real mad, but it's good for interaction. It's all a game. It's all a charade. It's all a facade.
This is your FAL. Take it.
All right, taking a piss with me. Oh! Halbeck device on top helps mitigate recoil into a certain pattern. Gas adjustment, then you have your grenade launcher sight. We got a Weaver mount up here for mounting a flashlight if I feel modern and high speed. Got a DSA dust cover with Picatinny on top with an aim-point electronic Mark III, and that's pretty much it. I also chopped off the carry handle because the Rhodesians did that for some of their rifles because apparently one guy lost his eye to a case that hit the carry handle and they all started chopping him. Could that be Rhodesian boomer lore or could that be factual? Probably somewhere in the middle, like the truth usually is. FALs aren't typically renowned for being super accurate, and you're probably gonna see when I go to shoot this at distance that I'm gonna suck with it like most of the guns because I myself am not the best shooter in the world. I am just a mouth-breathing YouTuber. Gentlemen, this video is made possible thanks to sponsors. Sponsors like Americana Pipes from Apparel, who sell wonderful Milsurp, even Alpenflage to go along with your Swiss weaponry. Not only do they have that, but they have night vision knives, manuals, and e-bikes. Fantastic young Zoomers getting after the Milsurp space and arena, and I appreciate those guys very much. I encourage you to go check them out. We also give a big thank you to Optics Planet, the optics sponsor of the channel. Greatly appreciate Optics Planet. And of course, Badlands Munitions, local Arizona company making ammunition. They have a wide plethora of very interesting stuff, such as 70 grain TSX, 147 grain Jello shots, really interesting array and options. And of course, I love supporting my Arizona guys. I'd encourage you to go check them out, and I appreciate them greatly. Then of course, we have the Springfield M1A, this one being a more recent production of the years, supposed to be the M14 that we have at home pretty much. M14s being more in the full auto variety. This one is not, sadly. I wish it was. I know the boomers and the older guys go crazy for their M14s, and I respect that because the younger guys go crazy for their kind of guns. This one's kind of mocked up in a more Shugart style from Black Hawk Down or Operation Gothic Serpent, but it's not, of course, a 100% clone correct build. It's supposed to be in the ballpark, in the nosebleeds kind of build for that style, but nonetheless, I think it still looks cool. We did recently have it on the channel in its own dedicated video, so we're not gonna wax on too much. The FAL hasn't been in its own video for probably a couple years now, so I touched on it a little bit more. Got really lightheaded for no reason. The M14 was, of course, one of the shortest lived duty weapons of the United States military, and it would be relegated to more unique roles. Typically guys picking them up, using them as DMRs, stuff like that. Now, of course, we get into the HK91, the Teutonic Magic, civilian import of the German G3. It's missing the cool paddle down here that would just take this gun and make it extra gangbusters for me. I have really come to love and enjoy this gun, but we're not gonna get to the rankings just yet because there needs to be a payoff in this format. So be patient. Hey Colin, play some Subway Surfer while I talk about this. We were just talking about how off camera, how that trick of putting Subway Surfer on the screen actually does work. I do love the background and the history of the German G3, essentially the Germans after World War II looking to rearm the Bundeswehr. They hear of the Belgian F and FAL and they're like, hey, can we get some FALs? And of course, due to the recent history, the Belgians are like, no, dude, you come to our country not once, but twice within this century. We're not gonna arm you with guns from us. So they're like, fine, we'll do it at home. And then the German weapon designers that were in Spain came home and made an even better version of the SETME with the G3. It's very German. Feels very German. It's efficient. It's logical. It's practical. And it's well done. POV. You have caught me using Big MP5. I will be banned from the server soon. No one was behind the camera. It's safe. And last but not least, we have the over-engineered version of the HKG3, the SIG PE57, or the Sturmgewehr 57, depending on what you want to call it, but the Sturmgewehr one's a full auto, and I call this one the PE57, also known as the SIG 510, but yet again, I stick with PE57. Like most of the guns out here, I have a dedicated video on it on the channel, but I figured since I have one now, we can go over it again, and kind of a speed run version, and I want to talk about it because I think it's one of the coolest guns ever made, / one of my dream guns. Will this affect the ranking? Most likely, but stay tuned. These were notoriously expensive for the Swiss to make, many complexities, many fine-tuned details about these guns, and they are of very high quality. You probably still find them in service today in Switzerland. You know, some older guys that used them when they were younger guys back during the Cold War. And if anyone wanted to mess with Swiss neutrality, they're going to find out the hard way about 7.5 Swiss. 3 of the 4 guns, of course, are chambered in 7.62x51, a 30 cal projectile, the exception being the 7.5 Swiss. 7.5 Swiss, harkening back to that era where you have the even fuller size rifle cartridge compared to, say, a 7.62x51. But, like everyone says, it is ballistically similar to a 30 cal projectile. Just a little bit longer. And we all want to be a little bit longer. Talking about height, guys. Get your mind out of the gutter. All right, first up, we got the DSA and SWE built FAL. You're gonna use the red dot. My rear sight aperture has been loose for a while and I need to get a detent for it, but I am always just dragging my feet on it. So we're gonna use the loosely based red dot so I can give myself an excuse when I miss a bunch. We were doing some test shots before filming and I performed the worst out of all the rifles with this. Target's at about 290 yards. So with the grace of God, I will look like a good gun tuber and hit the target. But I know he's going to humble me and I'm gonna suck. So it'll be entertaining for you guys. All right. It bounced. With that low round, I could see it bounce and it must have skipped up and hit it. So there's the physical manifestations of benefits of shooting low at the bad guy. Even at this distance, my dot is taking up such a large portion of that steel, and the steel isn't small.
Low left. High. High right. Low.
Ow. It's hot. It's hot.
Way low. Way too low. Low left. Low.
So dusty, I lost the target.
Low right. Hit. Hit. High. Low.
All right. Not great. Probably like 4 out of 20.
Wrong.
Next up, we got the Springfield M1A. We're going to use the irons on this, despite me having a dot. If I'm going to distance out to around 300, I would rather just be able to crank the dial and use it that way. Of all the sight pictures of the rifles out here today, I think the M1A is one of my favorite. It harkens back to that M1 Garand. I play a lot of Hell Let Loose. I love running around as the Americans with an M1 Garand.
I've been playing as the Nazis.
Be the weapon. Private Pile, finally found something you're good at.
Right. Low right. Right. Hit. High. Right. Hit. Low. Right. Low. Hit. Hit. High.
don't even know where that went. High. Hit. Hit. Hit.
The silhouette's not small, and even then your front side post is taking up all of that target. And that thing is clapped out gray.
Right.
Did a lot better than the FAL. Not exceptional, but better. As you can see, we have the HK91. Now we're getting to some of the guns that I enjoy shooting a little bit more, especially out to distance. And this one, I have an ace up my sleeve to do a little bit better, but we're gonna do 10 rounds with irons, and then I'll use my trump card.
Hit. 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 Low. Low. Hit. Hit.
Now, of course, I got something technically uniquely specific, but not, that being magnification is not uniquely specific, but what the mount is of course uniquely specific to the optic. We have ourselves an HK style claw mount for the HK G3 or other products, where we can throw it on, crank it down. Now she's on. Unpaid intern Jordan is on the glass this whole time. Got to give the guy some credit. And let's dial the optic up to 300 yards. Oh my God, I can see that thing. Have I hit the camera yet, Jordan?
Not yet. High.
A little too high. I saw that.
High. Hit. High. Hit. High. Hit. 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 Hit.
Now, of course, I wanted to use irons on the gun first before we go to glass, but I will say magnification is, when shooting at the distance, a godsend, and we have it very good in our modern day and age. I already have bad eyes. Now for the last gun. Give her the old college try with the Swiss masterpiece.
Low. Hit. Low. Hit right at the base. Hit. 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 Left. High left. Hit. Right at the base. Right at the base. Hit. High. Low. Or hit. Hit. High right. Right at the base. Low. Right. Right. Left. Hit.
Man, of all the guns, this is easily the softest shooting one, but man, does it kick up some debris. The Swiss gun was not meant for the harsh desert of Azerbaijan. My dune, my Arrakis. The memes must flow. So of all the rifles, I feel like I did the worst with the FAL, that being a loose rear sight aperture along with a roughly zeroed red dot, so I was just trying to find my hold for most of the shooting. It's also not an OG FNFAL. If I had an OG FNFAL, it may have swayed things a little bit differently, especially around those irons, getting your hold, having a spotter. All those things do help out in favor. The FAL does have a soft spot in my heart. It's often called the right arm of the free world. Even still used today, it is going strong. Of course, of the collection we have out today, all of them really aren't the real McCoys. Think I can hit him while he moves? Jokes, YouTube, jokes. That being said, grading it against the other guns, it's on the lower side of things. We're doing the tier list, so S tier being highest, like F tier being lowest. I probably would put this, for me, it's tough to say. I'm gonna go B tier right now, right? I know what it is. I know what it is capable of. It's not like the do-all end-all of battle rifles. It's older, and of course, we're not trying to rate these against modern battle rifles. It's still gets the job done. It's robust. Most of the time it's supposed to be reliable. I've had malfunctions with it, but typically that comes down to the magazine type. If the magazines are good to go, this thing typically runs rather well. Adjustable gas system. Things that go against it that we'll talk about with the HK91, it's not as readily modular as say an HK91 would be. None of the other guns will of course get close to it. I mean, if I was being, true to form, I'd probably throw some sort of modern LPVO on it, give it a better advantage, get a good zero on it, see how it does. I mean, the test was supposed to be a more older style sight picture test. It is what it is. Now, of course, we have the M1A or the M14, our stand-in for the M14. Using the iron sights, it was one of my favorite, but I don't think I performed the best with it. It's not as straight in line as any of the other rifles. Got a little bit more of the drop to the stock, it feels like. In my head, doing maybe the measurements, it's got that old classic style rifle grip, doesn't have the pistol grip of the other rifles, and it doesn't have the best reputation.
You can't kill dogs with an M14.
A lot of guys kind of clown on the M14, a lot of guys love the M14. I think it's a cool piece of American history. I think America's gonna have like a M14 2.0 with a new SIG rifle that the military adopted in 6.8 or 277 Fury, whatever you want to call it, because we kind of realized back in that Cold War era that the 30 cal for an individual soldier could carry less ammo, and it was kind of overkill in some instances for the firefights they were getting into. I mean, a lot of the times they're fighting guys that are completely unarmored. No one has body armor at this point in time. So a 5.56, you can carry more ammo of it, of course, and it's gonna get the job done with what you have, with a lighter gun, and there's a lot more benefits to it, less recoil, stuff like that. Not as heavy of the rifle, I should say. And of course now in the modern times, everyone having body armor, they wanted to go back to a round that could easily defeat level 4 plates, but I think they're gonna come back to the realization that more ammo is better because not all your hits have to be in the body armor. It's maybe that like aircraft survivorship bias thing. Trying to weave these thoughts together. Overall, performs with it better than the FAL. I still think it's, for me personally, gonna be alongside the FAL in the B tier list. The vibes are immaculate. If I was running this how it is, it's still very cool. You got a red dot on there. You have the option for pushing out to distance, making longer shots if you're a good skilled marksman, better than I, which most of you probably are. And it reminds me of Black Hawk Down, which is always massive bonus points. HK91. I think I hated this recoil pattern the most. Surprisingly, it was the most uncomfortable gun to shoot. That being said, I thoroughly enjoy the irons. And I love having the option of a quick throw on scope that you can easily take on or remove as you see fit. It's already zeroed, you throw it on. The Steiner magic does its thing. Get your hold and you can get rounds off. I like that about this gun. The gun itself is of course extremely modular. You pop some pins here and there. You can throw on a front Picatinny rail or M-lock or a spur rail, whatever you want to do. And of course you can change out the stocks to your heart's content. And we of course already have a video on it, so if you want to watch a much more in-depth version of that, you can watch that. But this thing still has a special place in my heart. I remember when I was getting into battle rifles, the FAL was the top of my want list, and I thought it was the coolest one. And then I got an HK91, and guys, it pains me to say, I think I like the HK91 better. To me, this has got to be like S tier, okay? Modularity, robust, reliable. This thing was used well into the global war on terror over in Afghanistan, used by guys like Dave Radband, who I've talked to personally on Instagram, Internet Pen Pal. He was running around with a G3, a little bit shorter variant, but still they were being used. And it's kind of crazy to think of how old of a design it is. Think of the MP5 or the 5.56 version. I'm totally blanking on the name, please put it in. I am stupid. And they hold up. And of course, I've reverted back to older furniture on it for this video. Not the oldest version, but you get the idea. You can throw some stuff on it and still keep it classical yet modern. The bipod I have on here, I know FALs had bipods, but having a bipod already on for taking those longer, well-aimed shots and not just burning it down for the YouTubes really does come in handy. I love HK91. I love HK91. I love HK91. And of course, the last gun of the lineup for today, the PE57. This is where a lot of my personal biases come in because, like I said earlier, it was one of my dream guns because of how cool it is. Now, it does look like a gun that I, as a child, would have drawn because that's how I thought the shape of guns looked, and it perfectly matches up, like long, slender barrel, somewhere over the magazine, straight, weird-looking stock, and the shape just has like a weird look, but if you're a firearm guy, chances are you really do Jones after this weapon. The OG ones are pretty rare in the country and will go and fetch for a pretty penny. This one being a parts kit build. So does a lot of the cool stamps. Like it sells a SIG stamp. You got the Swiss cross on there and a lot of matching parts on it. It was made by TTE and it's chambered in 7.5 Swiss. Despite it being chambered in 7.5 Swiss, of the rifles here today, it is by far the softest shooting. And I will say that some of the weight probably does play into it. It's coming in at 12 some pounds. Despite that, the recoil impulse is very soft compared to the other rifles. It is just very light and it's impressive. And it has to do probably in part to the compensator up here, how all the holes go completely around, which I think lends to it being a softer shooting weapon. Out here in Arizona, I think that's a slight hindrance considering how much powder there is. Like when you saw shooting, you can see how much debris is getting kicked up. I think if you live in the beautiful Swiss Alps where it's not as dirty as the dune out here, then you're not gonna have a big problem. So many features on this gun, so many well thought out details, such fine craftsmanship that it makes for a very cool military firearm. I think it's one of the highest quality military service rifles ever made. You know, you could probably pick and choose your poison and argue, but there's so many things about it that are just insane. Like everyone talks about the rear sight alone, and the rear sight is nuts. You have so many fine adjustments, the ways to zero it. You could have clip-on rear tritium for night sights that you can use in conjunction with your front sight post. And the gun has a lot of cool historical crossover. It's stealing some ideas from some World War II German firearms, such as the FG-42 or the MG-42 with some of the design. And I like that a lot because the German firearms are objectively pretty cool. Very well thought out gun. I love the chamber indicator, how it pops up when it's loaded. The bipod you can move around. The front and rear sights, very solid. I love how it's a very inline design with recoil. The safety is probably my least favorite part. It's a weird throw. Like right now it's on fire, move it all the way back, it's on safe. You really can't get to it with one hand whatsoever, but it is what it is. Over-designed magazine catch. And I was finding with doing the reloads, and we weren't doing like any high-speed shooting today, just more shooting the distance for the sake of it, a little bit more casual golf style shoot. But I like to rock it in all the way, pull down a little bit, and you can rock it in. You have your grenade launcher trigger, which I do love, and I think it's a really cool detail. I love the attention to detail and the idea that the Swiss military had of course, aiming towards neutrality and just having, you know, every guy is like, all right, you want to invade Switzerland, it's going to be costly. But the idea behind it, it's like the gun's doing multiple things, which some could argue that when a gun's trying to do multiple things, it's gonna not exceed at all of them and just be mediocre. But I still feel like for the era, it's pretty forward thinking. The gun you can launch grenades from, use it as a rifle, you could also use it as a squad support weapon, or in some cases a DMR. It's a rather impressive firearm. And it has a lot of cool history. And I do love the roller delay system in there. I think it's a wonderful, cool detail. It is very high quality, I can't stress that enough. It's not the only Swiss product that I own. Watch. And despite its awkward look, when you shoulder the gun up and you're getting behind it, it's very wieldy. It may be a heavier gun for the era compared to modern times, but it still holds up. And I love the entire system that the Swiss use because that also plays into a lot of, you know, infantry life is the gear that goes along with your weapon. And their idea was to pretty much make the gear their clothing with magazine pouches built in with their Alpenflage. And I kind of love that. It just works for the Swiss, I guess. It's an all-around vibe. Now, I will rate this as an S tier, but I don't think it's as practical as the German HK91 or the G3, I will say. The G3, from a military standpoint, is a very efficient weapon, way cheaper to make, still very robust and reliable, and was used in a lot more foreign conflicts because, you know, Swiss neutrality and such. I don't think we ever got a good chance to really find out how good the P57 was in foreign conflicts. Now, of course, it was just supposed to be a fun, quick video. I was thinking about this. I got a P57, some of the other guns. I was realizing I had some nice cross-pollination of Cold War era battle rifles, and it's one of the topics that I do thoroughly enjoy. And I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I got nothing else for you. I'll catch you on the flip. Imagine like someone road rages on the way home, let's pull out the M14.